So we're back in Hirosaki, and this is in Aomori Prefecture in northern Japan, and we're visiting Ishita-Sensei, and she is the local, and I think broader than local, Kogin expert. And so she's giving us a lesson in sort of the history of Kogin, and she's also got these amazing samples that her grandmother had collected way back in the 1950s. She started collecting these. So I'm super excited to learn more about this and also try some later on.
じゃあ、江戸時代とか明治時代頃の古作古銀と呼ばれているものについて、同じ津軽でも地域によってちょっとデザインが違うということを。
So, Kogin had different designs and different setups, sort of that were very regional. So for example, these 3 examples right here on the back all have a very similar sort of diamond pattern with the stripes across the top. So these were done in Meiji Jidai, and they're called Nishi Kogin because they were in sort of the western part of Aomori Prefecture at the time.
背中が同一模様で、縞模様のこの下のだから魔除けの模様が入っています。はい。
So typically the Nishi Kogin had this broader, so the stripes across the top and this broader expanse down below. And then there was this narrow strip, and you can see it on all 3, that act as a talisman to keep the spirits from coming to get you. I should also explain what this embroidery was done on linen clothing that was very, very thin. So it was done to thicken or enhance the thin fabric and give it more strength, more longevity, and also keep you warmer because it's cold up here. So this doll is representative of the work that women used to do in this area, carrying charcoal, and these are representations of charcoal up the mountains, and there are a lot of very steep mountains here, to the men who were working in the mountains. And so that was the woman's job, to be carrying the charcoal up and down the mountains. So the talisman on the back of the spear is to keep them safe from the animals that were up there. There are poisonous snakes that were up there. So this was to protect them from that. The stripes are the reinforcement there is to account for the heavy loads on their backs. So you can tell that the embroidery is much closer together, which makes it stronger. There's, not as much of a float between spaces. So that makes it a stronger fabric to bear the friction of the whatever she's carrying on her back up the mountains, which are very, very steep. So, and dangerous. Very taihen. So we should also point out that the space between the white stitching is not just the plain fabric. It is actually stitching with thread that's been dyed, indigo dyed. So it's not like a welt. It is the same thickness throughout the whole thing. The difference also, embroidery down here, the Kogin down here is done in multiples of 3, odd numbers, whereas this embroidery is done in even numbers, which pushes it closer together and actually gives it some more structure. So the backs of these garments for the Nishi Kogin were very uniform. It's on the front, though, that each maker, each woman is able to sort of showcase her creativity. And she uses the panels to show her own skill as an embroiderer and like as proof of her skill with needlework. So they don't need to be symmetric. It's like she's just showing off here. Like, look at all the great things I can do. So all of these garments, here's another one. They all have different patterns on the front, asymmetrical, just like shouting out what great needlework they can do. So these garments over here are an example of the Higashi Kogin, which is, you can see, very different from the Nishi Kogin. For example, there are no stripes along the top over the shoulders, and the scale of the embroidery on the back is larger. Its eastern part of the prefecture is much more open than the western part. The mountains are further away, and so Ishita-Sensei thinks that this scale and this sort of on the diagonal really let people know who was coming from a distance. They could see, oh, that's so-and-so because of the Kogin on the back of their clothing. So this one has a slightly smaller scale, but it's the same idea. These are much more dynamic embroideries. Like they're not static. There's a definite sense of movement. I think it has to do with the diagonal and the way, the directions of the X's on the back. So one of the other characteristics that is representative of the Eastern or the Higashi Kogin is there's a lot more white than there is blue. And again, that's like visibility, and it lets it stand out against the blue background. So, and you can see that here. Even though this scale is smaller, the amount of white is significant. So there's a third type of Kogin in this area called Mishima Kogin, and it is known for having these three like borders, both along the back and the front. So Ishita-Sensei only has one of these garments. They're quite rare and hard to find. And she thinks that one of the reasons why is potentially maybe they were special occasion garments or like for a wedding or something like that. So maybe that's why there just aren't as many as the Nishi and Higashi Kogin. She also pointed out, whereas the Higashi Kogin had like those big diamonds and all of that, the dynamic, this Mishima Kogin sort of takes the bottom half of diamonds only. But it's definitely symmetrical, sort of going straight through there, which is really, really neat to look at up close. I really like this one a lot. So, and I think similarly, falls, it's the same along the front, but like the Nishi Kogin, the patterns are all different along the front. So. There. じゃあ
ここ3本開けて、
1、2、3、はい。
出して、こっち右と同じことをする。
3つ。
そう、こうやって。
1、2、3、5。
あ、そうそうそう。
で、また3。
そう。
So we finished our workshop and it was really fabulous. We had these grids that have the design on it, and you start actually with the middle line, and then it does involve some turning of your work so that your edges come out really clearly on the back. So Tetsuya's is a little bit neater than mine, but I finished. This was so much fun. It's really smart to start doing this with a light background fabric because the mesh is very fine and you're counting spaces to stick your needle in and out. So the pink was a little bit darker than I probably should have started with. However, it was so much fun and I can't wait to do more. Visiting Tohoku, and specifically the Aomori Prefecture, and learning about Kogin from Ishita-Sensei was so valuable. It was so interesting and something that is still not known on a wide scale level. So I'm really happy that we got to take advantage of our time there and visit Ishita-Sensei, see her works and the objects that her grandmother had collected. It was really great. These are the amulets that Tetsuya and I stitched while we were there. You can see Tetsuya's is a lot more exact than mine. Mine got a little bit sloppy, but as Ishita-Sensei pointed out to us, if you really look hard at those old examples, you will see mistakes in their work. And it is something that you can just move beyond because it's not really standalone. It's part of a larger thing. And so the little mistakes aren't deal breakers and you can just sort of move beyond it and just keep going. Clearly I did. I am excited that we will begin to offer Kogin for our Japan craft tour, and we will be developing a Tohoku region add-on to our Japan craft tour as well. Super excited for that, so stay tuned. And remember, for more content like this, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. So we can see how transparent the fabric is. And then the shoulder epaulets are made and then they're sewn to the rest of the garment.